Hi, thanks so much for joining me today for Mom's Minute. My name is Becca Rogers, and I'm a member of Cornerstone Community Church. I'm married to Chris, and we've been married for 20 years. We have 3 children, ages 14, 12, and 9. I have 2 boys and 1 girl. Today I'm going to share with you some thoughts on sibling rivalry. When I became a mom of more than 1 child, it didn't take me long to realize that I was going to have some serious competition between my children. It often begins with fighting over the same toy or the same seat, or even fighting over me. Sometimes it's super obvious with all-out fights, and sometimes it's more subtle with words that tear down or ways to make themselves look better than their siblings. Sibling rivalry at the root is a heart issue. It's a need or desire to be noticed or to stick out, often driven by selfishness. It's a desire to make sure that we're loved equally and fairly, and when we don't see that happen, we do something to make it happen. Maybe our children feel pressured that they're different than their siblings, or so they try and create a situation that they stand out, but often it's done negatively. We see sibling rivalry in young children, and we see it in older children. And I wanted to let you know that although my children are a little bit older, this is still something that we're working through and often struggle with. It's not a quick fix, like teaching your kids manners. We work really hard to teach our kids to say please and thank you, and often we get to see those rewards. But sibling rivalry is a process, and it's something that we may work our entire parenting career with. So I just want to encourage you not to lose hope, to stay the course, and to stay faithful to the Lord. Some of the ways that we handle sibling rivalry in our family, I think it's important to remind our children often that they're created in God's image. Genesis 1:27 says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." He created them uniquely them, and they have their own special purpose in our family as well as outside of our family. God has given each of our kids different talents and abilities, and I think highlighting those and encouraging that it's okay to be different than their siblings is okay. It's a good thing. God had a plan when he placed your children in your home with you as their parents, and he gave them the siblings he gave them for a reason. We need to be careful that we don't compare our kids to each other, but emphasize that God created them exactly how he wanted them to be, so they could be used for his glory. We often recite the verses to our kids, Philippians 2:3-4. "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." We try to encourage our children to look out for their siblings. Jesus came to serve, and he is our example. Serving one another is a great way to show our love for the Lord and our love for our family. I often tell my kids that serving is really easy outside of our home. It's way easier to serve a friend by using an encouraging word or sharing a toy, but it's much more difficult to serve a sibling in our own home, which shouldn't be. Our family is our safe place. Families love you more than anyone outside of the home, so we should treat each other as such. It's also important to ask our kids questions so that we can get to the heart of the issue and flesh out what's really going on. So if a situation occurs, let's say Johnny and Mikey are fighting over sitting next to Mom. Both claim they were there first, and neither one is budging, which still happens at my house. You can ask them, are you putting your sibling ahead of yourself? Are you choosing to serve or to be served? Or how can you show your sibling love right now? Most kids can answer these questions, and although they may not like giving up their spot, it gets the wheels spinning on looking out for the interests of others. And it's okay to stop and pray right then with your kids. Sometimes when the frustration and anger is rising, it's okay to just stop and talk to the Lord and commit that time to him. it often can calm the situation. Some tips on managing sibling rivalry. One book that we found really helpful is called Wise Words for Moms by Ginger Hubbard. It's similar to Pastor Armin's book about put off, put on, the putting off of a sin and replacing it with a better choice. It goes through, it has a chart, and it has some heart-probing questions, some things to put off, and some encouraging verses to put on. It's a nice quick reference and very helpful. Another great resource is the Bible. The story of Joseph is a great example of how siblings were jealous, and out of that jealousy showed anger and hatred towards their brother. They allowed that anger to ultimately put him in a pit to die. However, God had another plan. He rescued Joseph. He placed him in a role that eventually would give him the opportunity to forgive his brothers. God gave him the strength to forgive, and restoration was able to take place between them. God had each of those details perfectly planned out to carry his plan. This is a great story to read to our kids about how God can restore their relationships with each other when unkindness or hurt takes place. The Jesus Storybook Bible is a great Bible for younger preschoolers. It has that example in it, which I believe is called The Forgiving Prince. And the Gospel Storybook Bible is another Bible for a little bit of an older preschooler. It also has that story in it, which is a great story to read together. Chris and I have tried to encourage a team approach with our family. We're all on the same team with similar goals, therefore we don't need to fight against one another. Our purpose is the same, to love God and to love others. Sometimes we even say, Team Rogers, just to kind of be funny. When the world is harsh or we have bad days, we want our kids to have a safe place to land. We have a great opportunity to create a loving environment where we encourage and support each other. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. We want to teach our kids to build each other up. I remember an example given to me years ago to model this with young kids. You can use blocks and have the kids build the blocks together. And while you're building, you can talk about how our encouraging words build up. And then, of course, kids love to knock down towers. Not all kids. I know I had one that didn't like to do that. But have the kids knock down the tower and then talk about how those words can also tear down or hurt one another. It's a practical example that can be used another day. So, for example, Sally says something unkind to Jerry. You can say, Hey, remember when we built that tower the other day? Let's use our words that build up, not words that tear down. As our kids have gotten older and involved in activities, we try to all go to that event to show them their support, our support, in whatever activity they choose. So, for example, one of my children plays soccer, and some of his games are an hour away, and we try to make it possible to attend those games. This may not be the first choice for my other children, but we encourage them to go to show the support and to show support of the interest that their sibling has. It shows love to them. As parents, it's important to spend time with each child independently. It builds the relationship with that individual child and allows you to get to know them on a different level. We pray with each of our children each night separately, so it gives us a chance to pray specific needs for them, as well as allows them time to maybe share something that they can share with us that they wouldn't necessarily share with siblings around. We sometimes take kids on a date, either with both Chris and I or just one of us with one kid. I have a friend that allows one kid to stay up each night later than the others, and they do something special with their mom or dad they play a game, or maybe they watch a TV show together. If you have a lot of kids, this might be a little bit more challenging. So you can group them together, like maybe the boys one night and the girls another night. That also encourages that sibling relationship. I really liked this idea because you don't need a babysitter. It's free, but I think it still allows you to build into your children. Kids crave that time with us, and I believe it speaks volumes to our kids that we want to spend time with them and desire that time one-on-one just as much as they desire it. I also think it allows you to see your kids in a different way. Maybe you have one child that's going through a particularly tough time, and spending time with them individually allows you to see them and their God-given personalities differently than when they're with their siblings. It might also give you an opportunity to work through that challenging time with a gentler setting. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen today, and also encourage you not to give up hope in training our children to love one another. It is a long process, but I believe the Lord uses each situation as an opportunity for growth. Be patient in their growth and in your growth. God is growing us all to be more like Him, and that takes time, some longer than others. I often have to remind myself of this when frustration or discouragement takes over. Galatians 6:9 says, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up."